Hey, good morning. My name is Pastor Steve Klemp. I'm pastor here at Love of Christ, and we love that you are here today, taking time out of your day to come and worship with us and hopefully charge into the fall season. You know, over the summer we were talking about miracles and the miracles of Jesus, and normally this Sunday is a transition Sunday into our fall sermon series or fall activities. Oftentimes we're outside, and this year everything has fallen apart this year, hasn't it? This year has been so bizarre. And in fact, you can even rewind 11 months, and for our congregation, things have been just off the chart crazy. If you haven't been here over the last 11 months, it was about this time last year that Pastor Paul told us he wasn't going to be here anymore. He was moving to Iowa to be a pastor down there. And it seems like that was the first domino of all sorts of things that seemed to have gone wrong this last year. I'll admit, I've been here for about 5 years, and when I came, I thought I got to be the backup guy. I was going to be the support. I was going to be like Aaron to Moses. Don't tell Paul I ever compared him to Moses. You know his head. It'll be big. No, I just thought I was going to play that secondary role and support and encourage and be that person who was there doing whatever it took, but not being the pastor. That wasn't my goal. That wasn't my intention. That wasn't actually what I thought I was signing up for. And maybe for you as well, over the last couple of months, the things have changed that you didn't think you had signed up for. Just as we thought we had everything kind of figured out, or we're getting into a rhythm, after Paul left in early October, we got into Thanksgiving right away at the end. You know, we had confirmation, and then Thanksgiving, and then Advent and Christmas, and finally catch our breath for January. February, we start getting our momentum going. We start getting into the Lenten season, and then, as we all know, the world changed, right? It seems like if there was a song that could emulate or could encapsulate maybe how we've felt over the last months, or at least I'm going to speak for myself, it's that great song from REM back in the 1980s. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine, right? When I was reading in 1 Peter 4, Peter says, the end of all things is near, right? It's like the end of the world is coming. Doesn't it just feel like that? Like the rug's just been pulled out from under us, and now while we're lying on the ground, things are falling on top of us. We just had this last Friday, the Remembrance, 19th anniversary of a day that turned our world, our country, upside down, September 11th. And I find it fascinating. My son, Cannon, has obviously he was born 4 years after that, 3.5 years after that. So he has no recollection at all. And we were sitting there watching some of the documentaries on Friday, and just seeing those airplanes go into those towers and hearing some of the stories of helplessness, or even the stories of victory, the few and far in between that there were, it took me back. It took me back to that time when I thought the world was over. And that song, again, came into my mind. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. But when things are going wrong, when things are the wheels are coming off the wagon, then it doesn't really seem like we feel fine. It's a great sentiment. It's a great idea that if the end of the world were happening, that I would be good, that I would be fine, that I'd be set. But I'll be honest, over the last 11 months, I haven't felt that way. In transitioning to trying to do ministry online in ways and thinking about how we try to promote the good news of Jesus and the hope in the midst of challenges, I've never been a pastor in a more vacuous environment, I guess. right? Where there's no contact, there's no connection, there's no feedback, or at least the feedback is different. It's in Facebook comments, and it's not the same. And it's great to be able to have you people here in person, because for months we didn't have anyone in the sanctuary, and preaching to a camera is certainly disheartening. And as much as I want to make that my own personal experience, and I want to lament, and I say, oh man, the end of the world, it just feels like that my life is gone all horribly wrong here in the last 11 months. I know that I'm not the only one. And in fact, it continues. And we know that this, as much as I had hoped that if we were just diligent about things in March and April and maybe even May, summer would return and we'd be good. And yet all the cancellations, all the missed opportunities, all the things and the activities that I wanted to do keep getting taken away. And it's hard. It's hard. And not being in person, there's something about personal relationships with humans that is so critical and so necessary that it affects us. And if you haven't noticed that or felt that or been aware of that, even introverts, okay? Introverts, raise your hand in your mind. Because I'm an introvert. I prefer to not be in large groups and gatherings. Caleb is just the opposite. He's an extrovert. He withers on the vine if he's not around people. But whether you're an extrovert or introvert, this year has been just crazy. Mostly for introverts is because we can't find a spot where there aren't people. Because you go to your house and everyone else is quarantined there, and you go to, you can't find your just rhythm, and everything is messed up. I saw a recent study that was published in out of China, of all things. Not a lot of information necessarily flows out of China, and always the question is this really good data that's coming out? But there was this just came out on Friday, and they were doing a study of middle school or primary school students in China, so 4th through 8th grade. And they noticed that there were more depressive symptoms and more suicide attempts after schools closed for the pandemic. They compared the rates from November, from that age group, to mid-May, and they noticed there's a great struggle that's going on, and that's in the kids. I can't imagine what it's like for all of the rest of us. And I've been wondering, I'm like, what is it that gets us so down? Why is it that we struggle in this environment, that we need people around us? We need some sort of connection more than just our family or more than just to God. We're like, hey, God will carry me through. And I think what it is it's a loss of purpose or direction. When things get switched around, we have to reconfigure our mind and where we're going and how we're operating and all of these things. And what we used to have so clearly defined, perhaps, being the second guy, the other pastor, then things change, and it takes a while for us to reconfigure. This loss of purpose, we struggle, we strain against it, and we try, and we wear ourselves out trying to reinvent ourselves. As I said, things have gotten only worse, it feels like, this summer, and the loss of energy and the loss of connection just seems to sap us. But the promise of God, the promises of Jesus are that when we get like that, when we get lost, Jesus cares for us. He comes after us. When we lose our purpose, when we lose ourselves, when we lose direction, it's exactly at that time when Jesus and God are looking for us. There's all kinds of different lost things that we can do. You can have lost mail. You can be lost at sea. You can lose time. There's Raiders of the Lost Ark. I just threw that one in there. You can lose your keys. You can get lost in space. You get lost in the woods. You can watch Lost, the TV show, right? You can lose your marbles. Right? And maybe over the summer you've lost some wages. And maybe things have been forgotten and lost to the ages. But if there's something that we never want to lose for the ages, and this is the good news of Jesus, that he is always seeking out for those who are lost. And so if you've been feeling lost this summer, dazed, confused, and wandering around with loss of purpose or direction, guess what? Jesus is looking for you. He's looking for you because you're very important to him. You see, if it's not very important, if you lose something and it's not important, do you bother even looking for it? Think about the valuable things you've lost in your life and how your search was invigorated if it was more important to you. I can think of multiple things that I have lost in my life. And my wife's like, well, you just never remember where you put them. I'm usually pretty distracted. I have a hard time keeping track of my keys, okay? I've lost my keys before. Those are pretty important, especially if they're the church keys. And I'm not talking about the bottle opener, okay? That's a weird thing. I don't know what's up in Minnesota. That's a colloquialism. I've never heard that anywhere else, but in Minnesota, a church key being the bottle opener. I'm like, wow, okay, that's interesting. I'm not sure what you're implying there. But I remember one time when I lost something really, really valuable, and it shocked me to the core. Actually, it shocked my wife to the core as well. It was, 12 years ago, 11 years ago. I'm talking about Sophie at Disney. All right, we decided, this is a great plan. When the twins were first born, we're like, you know what? We need to take the kids to Disney World at some point in time. And we can't afford to just drop that kind of coin on a vacation at any given time. So we had saved up for years. And like one year we bought like a 7-day hopper pass for Amy. And that's all we did. we did super minor vacations so we could save enough money for that. And then the next year we bought me a 7-day hopper pass. And then we were saving up money to buy the kids the hopper passes and those kinds of things. And all of a sudden it comes out. We are all set. We're going to go to Disney at Christmas time. Woo! Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. I don't know what we were thinking. We left on Christmas Day, drove through the entire day, got down to Orlando. We were launching from Illinois, so we were about 6 hours closer than we are here. And we got there, and I remember distinctly pulling through sort of the Disney gate, and there's fireworks going off, and we're like, woo, they knew we were coming. And the kids were young enough, they thought that was pretty funny. And I remember when we got there, then we took the next day just to recover, because we just travel hard. I mean, we just go to get to the destination, and then we recover, and then we take our time coming back, usually. That's how we do our distance vacations. And so we decide we're going to go to Disney, the Magic Kingdom, on New Year's Eve, the day of New Year's Eve. So we had our passes, and we got there pretty early. We had to wait quite a bit in line. We finally get in there, and we find out about 45 minutes after we get in, they have closed the park because it's at capacity. I mean, I don't know if you've been to the Magic Kingdom in Orlando. It's massive, and to hit capacity means there was absolutely no possible way you could ever socially distance or physically distance in the park. It was nearly impossible. There was a crush of people everywhere we went. And I remember we were in kind of in the far end of the park, and the kids, we needed a bathroom and snack break, and so we decided to go over to the bathrooms. And in my position, the way we would travel in large groups is Amy would take the lead, the 4 kids would be in between, and I'd take up the rear, and I would constantly scan between Amy and the 4 kids. Amy, 4 kids. Amy, 4 kids. That's all I needed to know. If we keep everybody together, we're good. And our kids kind of learned, I told them this story, when I was a tour bus driver before I got married, I got to drive all around the country in some of these big high school band and choir trips, and some of them were so large, we'd have multiple buses, 3, 4 buses going. And I told people, I said, I always loved being like the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th bus. It was great, because you could never get lost. And people look at me like, what do you mean you could never get lost? I said, as long as I knew that bus was in front of me, I'm fine. I'm right where I need to be, behind that guy. Right? And so our kids were doing the same thing. As long as Karis or Otto saw Amy in front, they knew exactly where they were, right behind mom. And the kids right behind their siblings. And then I'm like right behind them. And it was great. And so we get over to the bathroom, so we start to break out. Guys are going this way, girls are going this way. And all of a sudden we look around, and Sophie's gone. Now there are several, I think 100,000 people at the park. I mean, it's crazy to think about. And the reason Christmas time is so nuts in Florida is think about all of the college bowl football games. They're all played in Florida, and people are following their team. And if you're in Florida and you're following your football team, where are you going to want to go at some point in time but Disney? And so everyone comes there, and it's crazy. So we look around, and we're like, she's got to be right here. And all of a sudden, the panic sets in. We have lost our youngest daughter. She's, 5 years old, 4 years old, she was almost 5. I think they were turning 5 in 3 weeks. And she's nowhere to be seen. And there's just a sea of people, and you're trying to find this little girl lost at Disney World on New Year's Eve. Unbelievable panic and fear set in because something of incredible value was missing. And I remember, I'm like, well, first thing, we've got to keep our heads because we can't just scatter and then we'll lose more children, right? So I think you stayed with the other 3 and held on to them tight, and I start going and trying to retrace our steps, and I'm going back, and I'm like, I don't see her. I'm kind of outside the entrance to a ride. I don't even know what. And I'm like, we had just come past here. We'd come from It's a Small World after all, and it really isn't a small world when you lose a child. It's a really big world, and it's a scary one. And all of a sudden, I turned around and looked at the entrance of this ride, and there was Sophie standing next to a cast member. That's what they call employees at Disney. And she was just kind of standing there, looking around, confused, and I'm like, boom, beeline for her. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I scooped her up, and I don't know that I've ever hugged her as tight as I had. And then when I bring her back to everybody else, we're all just relieved and overjoyed. It felt like it was 2 hours she was missing. It was probably 2 minutes, But in that moment, you just are just so overcome with panic and fear. And it turns out she had followed another girl who had long blonde hair that she thought was her sister into the ride and was just kind of following along, doing what we told her to do, just stay behind the person in front of you. And all of a sudden, when the girl turned around, she realized in horror that was not her sister, and she was lost. And she did the exact right thing, just kind of stayed put, and I was able to find her. As I reflect upon that thing being found, and in this instance, my daughter who was missing, and the rejoicing and the relief and the celebration afterwards, and then you read in Luke 15, and Jesus reiterates in Luke 19, that's how God feels. That's how God feels. That's what Jesus was here to do, was to search and find those missing children, you and me, those missing sheep. We're so valuable to him. If we weren't important, if we weren't valuable, why in the world would Jesus come down? Why would he confine himself to space and time, into a physical body that needs food, right? That needs things. I mean, Jesus cries out from the cross, I am thirsty. He's eating and drinking. He has a physical body. That God would suffer and die. Jesus whipped and crown of thorns put on his head. He knew this was coming, and yet he did it anyway. He wouldn't have gone through that if it wasn't important, if it wasn't for something valuable. And that valuable thing is you. That valuable thing is me. And when we get all caught up in our own problems and challenges in life, And we start forgetting about God, and we start following the wrong things, and we get lost in a sea of humanity like at Disney. It's so easy to go astray. And Jesus comes after us. He's relentless in his pursuit of you and me because we are that important to him. Lost things, lost people are important to Jesus. And so we come today and we're thankful, so grateful that God in his love and his grace would come after us, would seek after us, would find us. And as I reflected on this last year, I'm trying to figure out how then do I not get lost again? Because I feel like I've been lost here and there throughout the year, overcome with stress and strain and focusing on the wrong things. So how do you do it? I'm still working on it. I don't have all the answers, but I know this. What helps me is connecting, and the connections I have with you. That you help me say, listen, Pastor Steve, this is the important thing, that you follow Jesus. This is the important thing, that you tell us about Jesus, that you show us Jesus, because sometimes we feel like Zacchaeus and we can't see him in the sea of people, and we need to climb up a tree, right? We need to be pointing Jesus out to each other because it's so easy for us to get lost. We get to be Jesus to other people. Think about that. That the people in your life who are spinning out of control, who are lost, who don't have purpose or direction, you know what? The purpose and direction we have now is the one that Jesus gives to us, that we get to seek and to save the lost. It doesn't matter if we are employed or unemployed, whether or not you have a home or homeless, if you have a lot or a little in your bank account. What matters and the purpose that you have isn't about your job. It isn't about where you work. The purpose that we all have together, that God pours into us, that helps us not stay lost, is to follow Jesus. To follow his example. You see, if we can keep Jesus in front of us, we'll never get lost. We will always have him right there in front of us, and he will lead us to various different places. Some good, some challenging, but he never leaves us. He never forsakes us. He never tries to run away from us. Instead, he patiently stands there and waits for us, sometimes just to catch up. And so, as we go into this fall, some of us may feel like we're stumbling into the fall. I want to charge into the fall. I want to charge into the fall with all of you. I want to charge into the fall not because I, Pastor Steve, have endless and boundless source of energy. I do have caffeine, but that only takes you so far. And we do have Caleb, but he can only take us so far. And his seemingly boundless energy. No, if we're going to charge into this fall, we're going to do it with purpose and determination in following the example Jesus gave to us. We have an opportunity today after service. I'm going to invite you guys to head on into Cana Hall to go and look. We've got all kinds of different tables set up there. We've got our Sunday school registration table. We want to charge into the fall. We want to charge into the fall following Jesus with kids in our children's ministry. Because we want to point them out to Jesus and help them continue to follow his example, and that they too can be great and amazing witnesses for God's love. We want to charge into the fall with youth. Caleb was mentioning that in the children's message. We have our youth nights are kicking off here in about 10 days. Wednesday nights, junior and senior high. It's going to be awesome, crazy, high energy. And we're going to have a great speaker here in 10 days. I'm really excited about it. Former NFL player. I mean, come on. I think about my NFL dreams. They died when I was a freshman in high school. I recovered a fumble that somebody muffed, and I realized, yeah, you know what? I don't need this aggravation. We get to charge into the fall connecting with one another. I'm going to encourage you guys to think about small groups, right? Connecting people, because when we are on our own, there's more likely that we're going to get distracted or lose focus on Jesus. And so it's really important to have those connections that we can help each other out. We got small group signups happening. And then you want purpose and determination in helping serve. We have ministry teams here. Ministry teams, we'd love for you to come alongside with us here at Love of Christ and help us minister and stay focused on the most important thing, and that's Jesus. And living out our lives with that love of Christ every day. We named the church Love of Christ for a reason, right? This is supposed to be our purpose. It's the name of the church and it's our purpose. There's this one and the same, in sharing that love that Jesus has for us, and in taking the passions that Jesus had for people who are lost and saying, what can we do to reach out? How can I keep myself in the right place behind Jesus so that I can be a good witness to others? See, these are the things that we are pushing forward and trying to do here at Love of Christ this fall, and we'd love for you to join us. It's a journey, this thing of faith. It's not always easy. Sometimes it takes sacrificing of things. But if there's something that I think the last several months have taught us, is that some things in our lives we've been able to live without that we thought were so important before. And it's helped us perhaps refocus on what really is the important things. Family time, the people that we love close to us, sometimes as close as a Zoom call. But still, those connections are important. But don't forget the connection with Jesus. Let's not forget that connection, and let's find others that we can connect to. For Jesus said he came to seek and to save the lost. That's what it means to share the love of Jesus, is to take up that mission and go and seek and save those who don't know him. Because if heaven and hell are real places, if they're eternal realities, then this is really important, that as many people as possible might come to know who Jesus is, that they too might come and join in and follow him. I pray that you have a purpose, that you understand your purpose and your position in the church, say it with a capital C, in the body of Christ. We need your gifts, your skills. That's what Peter says in 1 Peter 4. Whatever gifts or skills you have, whatever they are, you can use them for the Lord. You can reach and seek out and save those who are lost with the gifts that God has given to you. And the confidence to know that Jesus never leaves you. He never runs away from you. And if you get sidetracked, if you get lost along the way, he is seeking you. And he will come and find you. He will come and find all of us in that time when he comes back, whenever that might be. I don't know. 2,000 years ago, Peter said, it seems like it's happening right now, right? With coronavirus and all the other craziness going on in our country, in our world, it seems like maybe the end of the world is happening right now. All the more important now for us then to go out, charge into this world with the confidence that God goes with us, that he loves us, that for some crazy reason we are important enough that his crazy love would send his son Jesus Christ to die for you, to die for me. May that energize us. May that charge us up into the fall. Not about programs and all this other stuff, but being able to have that purpose of sharing Jesus' love with everyone we meet and whatever it takes to point them to that great and amazing love. May God bless you as you wrestle with that purpose in your place in the family of God. If we can help, we would love to walk alongside you to help you discover that. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about how we're structuring our church to try to facilitate these things. And the sermon series starting in November, we're going to be talking about how you can understand the gifts that God has given to you. So I encourage you to continue to charge with us into the fall with God's amazing love. Amen. Would you please pray with me? Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for your care, that you would imagine us to be so important to send Jesus to die for us. And Lord, we know there are other people out there who don't know your Son, Jesus. They're important too. Instill in us the value of those who are lost, to give us that purpose and determination to continue to go forward and share that news that we have, that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Bless us today, this fall, and all that we do and say. May we point others to you and give you praise and honor and glory. Amen.